David's question basically pertains to setting up an order set here. So we have a stop loss, it's going to do with some various trailing, kind of stepping trailing here. We have a profit target, and we actually have, this is a 2 contract set here. So let's see here. Yeah, so one of these stop losses is going to be associated with a profit target. And then the other stop loss, or the second contract, its stop loss will move to a break even, and then it'll start trailing the Ichimoku Kijun-Sen, or Kijun-Sen. I always forget if it's Kijun-Sen or Kijun-Sen. Anyways, yeah, so this last contract will start trailing the Ichimoku plot here. Yeah, I guess the first thing I should do is put the Ichimoku indicator on the chart. The Ichimoku indicator that we're going to be using is from Lizard Indicators. From Lizard Indicators. So you can just go to lizardindicators.com, and they have a free indicator download section here. But you have to be a member first. So you do need to sign up for a membership, just like you do with Futures.io, right? You had to sign up for a membership to get onto Futures.io. And it's the same thing with Lizard Indicators. They have a one-time membership with a fee as well. So there is a one-time fee for all these, but you do get a whole list of free indicators here. And let's see here. One of them is the Ichimoku. There we go. The Ichimoku there. So, and actually, if you have a Futures.io account already, you might actually find this Ichimoku indicator on Futures.io. So I know a bunch of these are already on Futures.io. So you might want to check there first. Okay, there's our Ichimoku for this. Yeah, I just want to focus on the Kijun-Sen line here. So let's see if I can. Let's see, that's the red line. There we go. I can make these others a little smaller. Let's see how that looks. There we go. Okay, great. So the thick red line is I think it's actually Kijun-Sen, if I remember. So the thick red line is the Kijun-Sen line here from the Ichimoku. There. So that is what we want the stop loss to start trailing there. All right, I think we have everything we need to get started here. So let me get BlackBird open. All right, so we have a 2 contract order set here. One has a profit target, but the other one, right, we can see there's only one profit target left. And then we know that we're going to have a stop loss, a trailing stop loss. So what that means is we're going to have 2 order sets here. So one of these order sets is going to have a 10 tick profit target. Right, so here we go, 10 tick profit target right there. Let's see. All right, so next let's build the stop loss component of it here. So, but what I'm going to do is right, so both of these profit targets for both of these orders here, right, they're going to have the same starting stop loss, of 10 ticks, and I'm assuming they're both going to have this 5 tick profit and then move the stop loss to a -5 location. So what I'm going to do is, instead of building 2 stop losses separately, I'm going to get rid of this one temporarily, right? And I'm just going to build it once. So I'm going to go into the stop loss and select the 10 tick stop loss there. All right, select that. And then, right, so what that did is that set up the initial placement, right? So our stop loss is going to start off as a 10 tick stop loss, right? Just like that. And then next we're going to add in this stop loss movement here, right? So once we get 5 ticks of profit, we'll move the stop loss to a -5 stop loss here, or basically a 5-tick stop loss, right? So this stop loss, right, you could think of it as -10 ticks, right? And then we'll move it to -5 ticks. So to add trailing capabilities to your stop loss, we're going to go into the trailing actions tab here, right? So the options tab, basically the options tab is where you set up your stop losses, initial settings, such as, what type of stop loss do you want? Do you want it to be a stop or a stop limit, and then where will it initially be placed on the chart? So, all right, so from the trailing actions tab, we're going to go into mode and we're going to build a custom trailing rules here. So now, once we've enabled custom, we can now build our own custom trailing rules here. So let's click add. And so this first one, so we're going to move the stop loss to a 5-tick stop loss, actually to a 5-tick stop loss at 5 ticks of profit. Next, we're going to go into the triggers here, and for the type, so since this is just looking for a simple 5 ticks of profit, there's 2 ways we can look for 5 ticks of profit. We can use the delay, and in here we can enable the ticks of movement, and so we can set this to a profit of 5 ticks. So basically, once the market moves 5 ticks in a profitable direction, then that would be our trigger condition, for of looking for that 5 ticks of profit, 5 ticks of movement of the market there. And or we could also use the profit or loss as well. So if we did this, we could put this, set the mode to profit, and then set the units to ticks, and then we say, okay, we want a minimum of 5 ticks of profit there, right? A minimum of 5 ticks of profit, and so that would do the same thing. So it's just a matter of preference of what you kind of like here. So I'm kind of gotten used to using the delay from the early days of BlackBird. So yeah, back in the earlier days of BlackBird, you would use the delay mechanism for that 5 ticks. I'm just kind of accustomed to doing it this way, but also it's a lot simpler. It's a little bit simpler. So, all right, so there's our 5 ticks of movement in a profitable direction. So that's the trigger that tells BlackBird to move the stop loss to this 5-tick location, right? So we're going to move the stop loss from 10 ticks to 5 ticks. So to move a stop loss or to move an order, that's what the action does, right? The action, as the name implies, performs some kind of action. And what is that typical action? Well, it's moving a stop loss or moving an order here. So we're going to move the order to, so if you look up here, we have move order to, and then move to, this sets up the price. What price are we moving that stop loss to? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the entry price and then move the stop loss to 5 ticks, right? 5 ticks below the entry price for a long trade, right? If it was a short trade, then we would take the entry price and then add 5 ticks. It'd be a positive 5 ticks, right? So, right, there we go. So if we look at this, right, it says OCO entry price minus 5 ticks, right? So if you remember that, and if we go over to the options, we can see the initial placement looks exactly the same. Entry price, but it says minus 5 ticks, right? So we just performed basically the same action, right? So we took our initial 10 tick stop loss location and then changed it to a 5-tick stop loss location or price point. So there we go. As far as the repeat go, well, you know, you're only going to hit 5 ticks of profit one time, right? So there's no repeating. This is not a constant trailing stop loss rule, right? This trailing rule only happens one time, right? One time per trade. So there's no repeat. So we'll leave the repeat on none. Okay, so that is that part. And let's see here. Yeah, so both of the stop losses are going to perform this, right? But then the first order, it'll have its profit target hit, and then the remaining contract, right? The remaining stop loss contract will then move to break even. So in other words, this is the only trailing rule that both stop losses have in common. You know, the first stop loss is not going to move to break even because it'll have its profit target hit, right? So this first stop loss basically gets canceled once our profit target gets hit. So it's only the second stop loss that will actually move to break even. So at this point, what I can do is I'm going to go to my order sets and I can make a copy. So I can copy the order set from A. Right, so there we go. I have duplicates here. Right? Now, our second contract doesn't have a profit target, right? There's no profit target mentioned for the second contract. So we're just going to delete that, get rid of that one, like so. And now we can go into the stop loss here, our second stop loss, and add in this stop loss moving to break even plus 1 trailing rule there. Right? And so we can, you can probably, you've probably figured out by now that this second order, the second contract is a runner, right? So this is typically what is called a runner. So where there's no profit target and you just let your stop loss, keep running up, in the direction of the trade and just let the market take you out by hitting your stop loss, right? So you just want to run this stop loss up as far as the market will allow you to go. So hence the name runner. And if you wanted to, you can even rename these here. So if we wanted to, we could call this the runner, right? Like so. Yeah, so just a little reminder there, you can put custom names in there if you wish. All right, so let's get back to the stop loss trailing rules here. We're going to move our stop loss to break even. So, all right, so I just added another trailing rule here. So we have rule B. Let's give this a name. When profit target A is hit, then, so we're going to move to break even plus 1 when profit target A is hit. So anyways, you can put whatever kind of name makes sense to you. So the condition is, right, we're going to move to break even when this profit target gets hit. So in the triggers here, one of the triggers is this order status changed. And so order status, well, what is the state of our profit target, right? We want to monitor what the state of our profit target is. So we're going to go in the select order, and we can see here we have a profit target. So we can select our profit target for A. And then we just want to look, when does that profit target get filled? Right? So basically, orders, once an order has been executed, so once an order has been submitted to the exchange, I shouldn't say executed, but submitted to the exchange, right? An order has only 2 states. You can wait for that order to get filled or cancel that order. So, and we're just going to wait for that profit target to get filled, right? That's our condition. So we know that when the profit target gets filled, that we've achieved 10 ticks of profit. And then we'll move that stop loss to break even plus 1. So in the actions here, we're going to move to, and so what is break even? Well, break even is your entry price, right? Your entry price is break even. And then we're going to add a tick to that, right? So if we're in a long trade, the entry price plus 1 is your break even plus 1, right? Like so. And again, moving a stop loss to break even is a one-time action, right? A one-time occurrence or one-time action. So the repeat, we're going to leave the repeat to none. All right. So that is number 4. So now on to number 5. And let's see here. David was letting me know it's pronounced Kijun-Sen. Okay. Kijun-Sen. So that's pronounced with an A. Thanks, David. All right. Kijun-Sen. So, all right. So I need one last trailing roll here. And so this last trailing roll, you know, where our stop loss is following the Kijun-Sen line, that basically is what makes this a continuous stop loss, trailing stop loss. Let's see. So we're going to follow the Kijun-Sen at 11 ticks of profit. So we know that when our stop loss moves to break even, that we're at 10 ticks of profit because our profit target is 10 ticks. Yeah, you don't want the stop loss to start moving or following the Kijun-Sen until 11 ticks of profit has been achieved. Right, so you do have to do a little bit of math here to kind of work out all the numbers. And so let's go and use the delay, and then we can just set this up to 11 ticks of movement, right, of market movement in a profitable direction. So, all right, and the action, well, the action is, this time it's going to be different. So this time we're going to use an indicator. So we need to change the mode from price to indicator, right? We're not using bar prices anymore. We're going to use an indicator value to set the price of the stop loss. Let's see here. Let's go into indicators, and let's go into Lizard indicator folder. Scroll down, and there's our Ichimoku indicator. And you know, remember to change any of these kind of period settings here for your indicator, right? So remember the Ichimoku kind of has this shift number that can be changed, you know, if necessary. There's a Kijun period, you know, so remember to change the Kijun period if you're using, you know, some custom settings on your Ichimoku indicator there. And then, so once you've got your indicator settings, you know, all changed to match what you're using on the chart, then the last step is to select the correct plot that you want your stop loss to follow. Right. So we are trailing the Kijun-Sen. So we'll have that selected there. All right. So there we go. We have our indicator all plugged in and set up there. And if you want, you can add an offset. So you could put that stop loss like one tick right below the Kijun-Sen plot line, or you could put it one tick above. You know, so if you want an offset, that's easy to do there. You can add a tick or two offset. But other than that, we're done. Right? So the action is going to be to move our stop loss to the Ichimoku indicator. And now this trailing roll does repeat, right? We want that stop loss to keep moving every bar by bar. We want that stop loss to keep following the Ichimoku. So our repeat is going to be set to indefinitely, like so. Now, with indicators, right, you can only, right, indicators basically update themselves once a bar closes, right, one time per bar. So this repeat every should be left on bars, right? If you move it to, let's say you move it to ticks of movement, you know, that's not going to do you any good because, right, indicators are not updating themselves on a tick by tick. Some do, but the Ichimoku is one of those indicators, right, that updates itself on a bar by bar basis. So when you're working with indicators, basically you're repeating once per bar. Let's see, actually there's one last thing that we should do here. Okay. There's always a drawback when you're using an indicator. So like, for example, let's say you executed a short trade somewhere around here, right where my cursor's at. Well, the Ichimoku is below the market, right? So obviously you can't move your stop loss. You can't move your stop loss for a short trade below the market, right? Your stop loss needs to stay above the market if you're in a short trade, right? So you got to be aware of that when you're using indicators, that you don't have your stop loss moving to the wrong side of the market, right? Otherwise, that'll just close your trade out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here, and so the trailing rule, right? This trailing rule that follows the Kijun-Sen, we're going to go into the trigger and we're going to add a secondary check, right? So we're going to make sure that the Kijun-Sen is on the correct side of the market before we start trailing the Kijun-Sen plot. So what we're going to do is switch over to advanced, and let's see here. And so the mode is it's going to be in all in any order. All in any order, right? So we're going to have two trigger mechanisms, right? So the first trigger mechanism is making sure that we have our 11 ticks of profit, right, before following the Kijun-Sen line. And then the second condition here, the second trigger, is we're going to compare price to an indicator here. Let me take it off, right? So right below where my mouse here, price versus indicator. So that's the second check that we'll do before our stop loss can start following the Kijun-Sen. So let's see, yeah. So we'll check the closing price of the bar. We'll make sure that the market closes has closed on the correct side of the market, or on the correct side of the indicator, I should say. Yeah, we want to make sure that the market has closed on the correct side of the indicator. So input B, that will be our Ichimoku indicator. So we'll go back into Lizard Indicators. There's our Ichimoku indicator, and we'll select the Kijun-Sen plot line. All right, and again, make sure you adjust any necessary settings here so that you're using the indicator with the same settings as what you have on your chart. And just for good measure, I'm gonna add an extra tick to this. So what I've done is I've taken, if we're in a long trade, so this is how you can imagine this, right? So if you're in a long trade, we take the Ichimoku plot and we add one tick to it. So what we're now doing is we're taking the close price, comparing it to the Ichimoku plus one tick, right? So just think of, here are my cursors at, the red line, right? Take that red plot line and add a tick to it. And so the close of the bar needs to be greater than the Kijun-Sen line with a tick added to it, if we're in a long trade. So that just makes sure that the bar has at least closed one tick higher than the Kijun-Sen line. If you want to make sure that there's more of a buffer, between where the market closed and your indicator line, we could just go back into the indicator settings and we could add a couple more ticks, so we can make sure that there's at least, a 5 tick buffer between the close of the bar and the indicator plot. Okay. So whatever kind of buffer you think you need, just add that buffer distance, to your indicator. So that's actually, I'll leave it at 5. That's probably 5 is probably a little more reasonable of a 5 ticks. It's probably a little more reasonable of a buffer. So we're going to make sure that the closing price, right, of the bar is at least 5 ticks above our indicator line when we're in a long trade before the stop loss can start following the Kijun-Sen line. And then let's see, as far as the modes here, we want A equal or above. Yeah, so we want the closing price to be equal or above the Ichimoku. So our modes are set up correct. Yeah, so again, if we're in a long trade, we want A, and what is A? A is the closing price. So we want the closing price to be equal or above B. And what is B? B is the Ichimoku. Yeah, so we want A above the Ichimoku. And remember, it's the Ichimoku plus 5 ticks. Yeah, so it's going to be the close needs to be equal or above the Ichimoku plus 5 ticks. Yeah, and that does it. Yeah, so let's kind of go back to the mode here. So the mode where it says all or all in any order. So the mode, so all means both, we need both the delay trigger and the price versus indicator trigger. We need both of those triggers to become true, right? So in other words, for our delay, we need to at least have hit 11 ticks of profit at some point during the trade. And price needed to be, let's see, price, actually, let's change this here. In sequence. Let's change this to all in sequence. So the delay needs to happen first, right? So in other words, our 11 ticks of profit needs to happen first. And then BlackBird will check to make sure that the close of the bar is at least, right, 5 ticks above the Ichimoku line. Yeah. So we'll look for the 11 ticks of profit first, and then make sure, and then afterwards make sure that the price of the closing price of the bar is 5 ticks above the indicator. Yeah, so that is what in sequence would mean. All right, I think that's it. Yeah, so that's the core question here, and there's a couple of follow-up questions as well down here. So yeah, I guess before I save this here, yeah, let's add this other. I'll add this other part into it. So something else that we're going to add here is we want to use BlackBird to enter the trade if price touches the Kijun-Sen line on a pullback. So basically, David's asking, is there a way to have BlackBird trail the Kijun-Sen until basically the market enters the trade? Yeah, so what we can do is convert our entry orders into a limit order here. So we don't actually have entry signals, for BlackBird to know when to enter on a pullback. But what we can do is we can convert these entry orders into a limit order, and then have the limit entry order follow or trail the Kijun-Sen. So let's do that here. So I'm going to go into the entry orders, and we're going to convert them over to a limit order. And let's see here. We want the initial placement. Let's go load this up. So instead of placing our limit order on the closing price, we want to place it on an indicator value. And so now we can select the Ichimoku indicator. All right, there's our Ichimoku. And again, remember to change any kind of settings here that might need to be adjusted, any kind of periods for your indicator settings. And then we will select the Kijun-Sen line, like so. All right, so that is the initial placement. So, but if we want our entry order to trail the Kijun-Sen, then we now need to go over to the trailing actions, and we're going to do a custom trailing rule. right? And then we add a trailing roll, and there we go. And we'll set this to follow the Kijun-Sen. So let's just go to the action here. So action, we want to move our entry order to, well, we want to move it to an indicator value, right? The Kijun-Sen plot. And there we go. We can see actually, sometimes BlackBird has the ability to automatically put your indicator in here. And it's already has the Kijun-Sen selected. So, yep, good. We are good to go there. So there's our indicator already set up for us. And now the repeat, right? So we want this entry order to keep trailing or following the Kijun-Sen line until the market pulls back, right, and picks up that and fills that order. So we'll set the repeat to indefinitely, like so. And that is it. We're done. We're done with this entry order. So we now need to go and do the same thing over here for our runner. So let's change this to a limit order. Change our initial placement to an indicator value. And we can see the Ichimoku is it's already set up for us. And we have the Kijun-Sen selected there. So cool. So it kind of BlackBird remembered what we did previously to kind of speed things along a little bit. All right, so there's our initial placement. Now let's go into the trailing actions tab. Go to custom, add a trailing roll, and there we go. Put in a name. Go into our actions, go into the move to, and change the mode over to an indicator value. And there is our Ichimoku already placed in there for us. And we'll just make sure it's on the correct plot, the Kijun-Sen plot. That looks good. Here we go. And again, if we wanted to, we could add an offset for our entry order, right? We could take our entry order and say, put it one tick above the Kijun-Sen if we wanted to. So just remember, you do have that option to move our entry order, one tick above or one tick below our indicator plot. All right, so we have the Ichimoku loaded in, and next, just set that repeat to indefinitely again. And there we go. So let's, let me click OK, accept that. And let's do a little test. All right, so the market is above our Kijun-Sen line here. So let's place along there, and let's see here. It's long pending. All right, so we have a long pending order. Let's see what happened here. Let me close out that long pending order. Let's see what I might have done. Let's see, all right, limit. I might have clicked on something here by accident that put our entry order into a pending state. Let's see, I'm not seeing anything. Let's take a look here. Let's take a look at our orders tab, and let me pull up the order monitor. So the order monitor here will give me more information on the status, right, of our entry order. So all right, let's try this again. Let's hit go long, and let's see. Oh, it says it's working. Oh, well, All right, yeah, it looks like I've got a problem with the flags not showing. Okay. So let me just actually let me save my work first. Let's save this to a file, and then I'm just going to reload the chart to reinitialize Blackbird. Let's see here. So let's save this. There. All right, something like that. There's a file name. Okay, so now that I have, you know, all this work saved, now I'm going to reload the chart, get those order flags reinitialized again. Let's see, let me open up the order monitor window again. Let's see, what's this? That's right, that was our MACD indicator from the first question. I'll put that down there. Let's see. All right, now we should be ready to go here. Let's try this again. Go long. There we go. All right. So good. Once we just reinitialize Blackbird, now we have our order flags here, and we can see on the order monitor, right, those entry orders are working. And of course, if we look on our orders tab, right, we can see those entry orders are working as well. So all right, so let's see here. Let's just pull the market back. Let's move the market down. Yeah, let me just make a little note here. Since this is not an auto trading system, right? So there's no need to turn on the auto enabled button here, because that's not going to do anything, right? Since there's no trade signals, this is not an automated system here. Okay, so there we go. Orders picked up. Let me move the market up. Come on. There we go. Let me move the trend up. There we go. Sometimes it's hard to grab that little trend dial to move it up. All right, so now we're just going to wait for 5 ticks, and there we go. Ooh, let me slow this down a little bit there. So we just hit 5 ticks. Our stop loss is moved up to, right, a 5 tick stop loss. So they moved from a 10 tick to a 5 tick stop loss. And now once our 10 tick profit target gets hit, then the remaining stop loss will move to break even +1. Almost there. One more tick. There we go. All right, great. Profit target got hit, and our stop loss moved to break even. And now there our stop loss jumped up, and it's trailing the Kijun-Sen plot line. All right, there we have it.